So what's the future, man? Are we all going to be back to living in huts and caves and
that's what happened when Atlantis got smashed 12,800 years ago.
No,
historically, a comet shattered over North America.
I want to talk about Atlantis.
You guys are talking short term.
This is before it went under Antarctica.
Let's talk about what happened to Rome.
Okay.
Let's keep it.
Okay, good idea. Political upheaval.
What happened to the people?
So I mean, Italy still exists, right? I mean,
Rome still exists.
Like Rome as a city still exists, right? The Roman,
it got annihilated
in terms of the people.
It got conquered and then reconquered and then conquered back and then reconquered
again.
Right. People were living in like shelled out buildings and the population was decimated by 90+%.
And so when you put all this together, right? When you do put all this together, when you talk about the weakening of the U.S. as a system, right? The U.S. as a system, and then you go to the military side and you can see, so Russia, Iran, and China are telling us what we need to do in our backyard. And then you've got the U.S. Navy study that comes out that says, look, we would lose a major conflict right now on the seas. We would lose. It just, and I say as a former naval officer, and I think they're right. Like we are not ready to fight a near peer competitor, right? If imagine the U.S. losing, and I'll just put it out there, imagine the U.S. losing a maritime conflict over Taiwan. Like China moves on Taiwan, we say we're going to defend them. We say no. Japan comes to rallies, but Korea says not worth it maybe. And then Australia says we'll pitch in, but really the U.S. is leading the whole thing, and they just straight up lose.
If that happens,
think about what that does to the American psyche.
Not just the American psyche.
A decisive
what
loss.
happens with the rest of the
military
world when the United States has blood in the water and all of the sharks start coming, realizing the U.S. can't defend its allies anymore. All it takes, when you look at what happens in a lot of these countries, like the police breakdown in South Africa where the cops are actually looting now. Once the unrest gets to a certain point, people say the cops can't stop us. And we saw it in the United States, in Baltimore and Ferguson. The police can stop, it's like whack-a-mole. When the whack-a-mole is coming up really slow, the cops can go and stop unrest. But when they keep coming up like crazy, there's not enough police to stop it.
So I was in the Freddie Gray riots, not participating. But the thing that got me about that was the speed, right? The speed at which...
The whole city. I was driving down the street and I saw some random people walking down the street just stop and throw something through a window and climb in to rob from the store.
And what blew my mind was that you knew it was going to happen. Everyone in the city knew there's going to be riots tonight. It'll probably be around 5:30. And the police were basically told, so the governor hadn't called in the National Guard yet. Actually, a buddy who was called up in that. But for the first night, there was no National Guard, right? You had the mayor, Stephanie Rawlings Blake, who says we need to give them room to protest.
Right.
Marilyn Mosby gives her No Justice, No Peace speech, blocks me on Twitter for yelling about her. Completely illegal, but I'm actually glad that she blocked. The OK Boomer girl blocked me today. Actually,
I saw that.
Congratulations!
Thank you. I just said thank God. Just en nombre de Padre, Filio y Espíritu Santo.
Wasn't she doing like a promo for a phone or something?
So she was doing a promo for a phone.
Yeah.
And then someone said to her like, "Oh, are you going to do an iOS version?" And then she responds, "Team Android," right? And then on the tweet, because it says like what format you use to put it, it said tweet by iPhone on the tweet. So I just quote tweeted that and I wrote tweet by iPhone and she blocked me.
So anyway, the riots.
So everyone knows that it's going to happen. The police are basically only deployed around certain areas. They've made lines, but if you're at the Mandalman Mall, which is in North Baltimore, that place was smashed apart. And I'll say this too, because people will get on me and say, "Oh, well, that was, this, whatever." No, it was every race, every ethnicity, every group under the sun. You saw Asians, Hispanic, white, black, everybody was getting in on this, right? You were going to the Target, you were grabbing a TV, you were grabbing anything you could. There were pickup trucks full of appliances and I would just see them just driving by with it, or a guy like holding a couple of laptop boxes walking down the street. It was just chaos, just mass chaos. It was in an eye blink. Everything that you think our society is, right? All of those basic, unspoken, the unspoken rules, but then also just the actual laws on the books disappeared. And everybody knew it. and everybody, it was like a purge night. It was the only difference between, I think the first Purge movie had been out at that point. The only difference was that in the Purge, they actually have an announcement. This was just sort of a tacit understanding that, hey, go do crimes now.
Here's what happens if China takes Taiwan and the U.S. can't stop it. That's when the rest of the world sees the United States cannot police anything. They can't defend their allies. And then you'll start seeing things pop up in certain areas. The U.S. will try to quell certain uprisings. Allies will call for help. The U.S. won't be able to. And then there it is.
The Taiwan thing and Hong Kong thing makes me kind of think of Cuba. Like, I don't think the U.S. should be involved with Taiwan and Hong Kong purely because it's China geographically right next to China, whereas I don't think they should be messing with Cuba. Whereas, not that it's American soil and not that Taiwan is Chinese soil. And if the Americans were to invade Cuba and take it, they would do it economically anyway.
It's fascinating that China has to its southeast this island that they claim is theirs, and the people there are not communists, and the U.S. is saying, don't you dare intervene or we'll stop you. And then you have in the southeast of the U.S., Cuba, which is communist, and you get China, Russia, and Iran saying, don't you dare intervene.
And by the way, it's interesting enough that one thing that people leave out about the Taiwan situation, the reason they don't call themselves the country of Taiwan officially is because they still maintain that they are the sovereign power over all of China and Mongolia.
Oh, of course.
Which was at the time. So that's Republic of China.
What we call mainland China is actually West Taiwan.
That's right.
Right, exactly.
So the government, the Republic of China, fled to Taiwan. This is like in the 60s or 50s?
Right, so they've never officially recognized the communist government of China as the official government. The U.S. did under Jimmy Carter. This was not something that Kissinger said they were never going to do, that Nixon said never do this, but Carter gave official recognition. Wow. This is what switched the seat, by the way. So the Republic of Taiwan, this is actually, it's not just an academic thing, because prior to the 1970s, the seat on the UN Security Council for China was actually controlled by Taiwan because that was seen as the internationally recognized government of China. When that switch happened, again, 1979, right? When that switch happened, that is when you really now see, and then 10 years later is what Tiananmen Square, and what repercussion did China face? What repercussion did the CCP face for the Tiananmen Square massacre?
I don't think anything. I mean, did they? Anything? Any
they
sanctions?
They were rewarded. They were rewarded with increased foreign domestic investment. They were said, or direct investment. They said they were told we just need to bring them more into the order. They just need more KFCs and more McDonald's and Saks Fifth Avenue and Gucci and Louis Vuitton and everything else. If we can just get them more of the international order, well, they'll just be better. This is by design. It has nothing to do with human rights. It has nothing to do with human agency. It has nothing to do with all of these things, natural law, all of these things we talk. It's money. It's money and power at the end of the day. All these fancy, terms and euphemisms that we can come up with. It's just money and power at the end of the day. They have it, and they don't want you to have it.
And the idea is that you, the pleb, will be in the renter class, and they will own.
Yep. Is it they don't want you, the pleb, to have it because they're afraid the pleb will unseat them? Like, are they afraid for their livelihoods and their family and their money?
Okay, you need to understand, Ian, that as twice. The ignorant rabble, you truly don't understand worldly affairs.
Okay.
And the elites
I don't understand
need to manage all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, humans simply become massively overweight and addicted to drugs and video games, and they overpopulate, and eventually the earth just falls apart. It is incumbent upon better men to decide what you should do with your life.
Oh, this is referred to as noblesse oblige.
Don't worry. You will own nothing, but you will be happy.
My question, though, is will I learn discipline?
It won't matter.
I see. Why?
Because you won't be able to disrupt anything.
But do these people have discipline? I don't.
Of course they don't.
Whoa. You can't impose discipline on our betters.
Right. No. How dare you?
They are the highborn and we are the lowborn.
The highborn.
And that's what it is. No, I go back. Look, people, there's some guy who's getting on me for running a Game of Thrones blog. And that's like how I first, kind of was operating on the internet. And so I was getting on me over this, and they were like, "Oh, you're just a Game of Thrones blogger." I was like, "Well, I mean, I was an intelligence officer at the same time. It's not publicly." And I'm like, but that being said, I think it's actually quite useful to understanding where we're going and how we see things. Right? There is an aristocracy. They are the highborn. There are different factions, right? They're like the different houses. So certainly there are different factions vying for power, but you would never see a member of one of the houses of Westeros allowing one of the they even call them the small folk. There's a word for this in Chinese, la baixing. It means the old 100 names. And so there's the idea that they are the rabble. They are the deplorables, if you will, and we are the elites. We are those in power.
Yeah. Why should they leave the world, the fate of the world, in the hands of people who eat, who drink a quart of soda with their triple cheeseburger
washing
smothered
their
in
teeth
barbecue
with
sauce.
Mountain Dew,
Yeah.
I actually tell you a story. When I was in Shanghai, so I was at the Shanghai American Chamber of Commerce, and there is a museum they call it a museum. It's not really a museum. They call it the Shanghai Municipal Planning Museum, but it's actually more of a planning center. And so CODELs, congressional delegations or business delegations or governors or senators, whatever, would come to Shanghai, they would always bring them to the Municipal Planning Center, right? And they would say, into this museum. And the CCP members, so this is the local Shanghai party. And actually, when I was there, the guy who was the chairman of the city party of Shanghai was a guy by the name of Xi Jinping, right? He's gone on to become a little bit more prominent.
Congratulations.
I know, yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
Old buddies.
And we always knew at the time, I actually had the opportunity to meet him once, and we always knew that he was going up to Politburo, but we didn't realize it was going to be that big, that fast. I always kind of referred to him as he was like the Shanghai Tony Soprano, which is just how he carried himself.
Yeah.
With huge entourage, overcoat, off the shoulder kind of deal. But when they would bring our leaders there, Martin O'Malley, I remember he came over when he was governor. They would go down and they would say, wait a minute, so you guys, if you decide you want a financial sector, you just here's you can just draw on the map and say this is going to be our financial district, and boom, you just have it within 10 years and it's just there. And if you want capital, it's just handed to you. And if you want a high-speed rail, boom, you just get your high-speed rail and you can put it wherever you want. You say you want an entertainment center. Disney wants a park, right? Now Shanghai Disney has a park.
Yep.
So I was actually I was in some of those early planning meetings with Disney in Shanghai as they're meeting with the CCP to say, oh, hey, we're going to build our park. We want it here. And, and then, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, what about all the people who have lived there, those families? These are actually, there's a historic type of building that they would have in old Shanghai called the Shikuman. And there are these really cool, like interlocking houses and sort of like housing units where you'd have a courtyard and then around it, people would go, and then so people could meet, the kids would go in the courtyard and like older couples would kind of hang out there to sort of like watch over the kids, teach them things. And then if they were these communities, and it was all stone, right? And I was like, well, what's happening with all them? What about all those that are there? Wiped out, destroyed, demolished. The people
eminent
who live
domain,
there,
do they give them money or anything?
No.
Just bye-bye.
You don't even in China. You can't. Funny enough, in China you can't own anything.
Right.
You cannot own land. Right. You can lease it for about 99 years, but the government always owns all the land.
Meaning
right?
they can take it at
actually,
any moment?
It is theirs. It's already theirs.
Oh.
Actually, the word communism in Mandarin, Gongchanjuyi, literally means public propertyism. Right? If you translate it directly, Gongchan, it means public property. So private ownership is the opposite of communism.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.